The 2024 NCAA Indoor Championships will be hosted in Boston, Massachusetts at the track at New Balance, the brand new facility which has already seen some amazing marks put down by both high school and pro athletes. But this will be the first high-profile NCAA meet held there, with, of course, all due respect to the college meets that have already gone down. But what's crazy is that considering how many major indoor tracks there are up and down the East Coast, the last time the NCAA championships were in the Northeast was back in 1985 at Syracuse University, which doesn't even have an indoor track venue anymore. So this is clearly going to be an amazing experience, and we're likely to see some insanely fast times on the track and huge marks in the field. But as the indoor season gets rolling, this got me thinking about what was the greatest NCAA Indoor Championships in its entire history. Now, though the NCAA has been around since the 1920s, it wasn't until 1965 that the first indoor championships was held. Then it wasn't until 1982 when women actually joined the NCAA, and finally, 1983, both men and women were competing at the indoor championships. So as of 2024, we're talking about 41 years of indoor championships as we know it today, with, of course, 2020 as the only cancellation due to the pandemic. Now, in theory, I can go through every single championships and the results, which at some point I do hope to do, but I'm here to first make the case for 2018 being the greatest championships in history, specifically in the sprints, jumps, and hurdles. Hopefully, I can continue to go back through history over the next few weeks and look at a few more championships and see how the results stack up. But let's first highlight the sprint, jumps, and hurdles at the 2018 Indoor Championships. Off the bat, in the 60-meter dash, we saw Aleia Hobbs of LSU take the title in 7.07 seconds, equaling the NCAA record set by Hannah Cumliff a year prior and making her the 12th fastest American in history. Also notable were LSU's Makai Briscoe at 7.11 and Auburn's Natalia White at 7.12, which were the fastest non-winning times in NCAA history at that point. Remember, this is 2018. In the men's 60, Elijah Hall of Houston won in 6.52 seconds, which moved him up to number 11 in NCAA history. But as we step up to the 200-meter dash, this is where records start to quickly fall. First on the women's side, Gabby Thomas of Harvard ran 22.38 seconds, which took down the NCAA record of 22.40 set a decade earlier in 2008 by Bianca Knight, which was a legendary performance in itself. Also notable was Ashley Henderson, who finished second to Gabby Thomas in 22.41 seconds, just 100th of a second off that former record set by Bianca Knight. But moving over to the men's side, we saw an even better performance. Elijah Hall, coming off his 60-meter win, got the 200 title in 22.02 seconds. That was not only an NCAA record, but also just barely off the sub-20 barrier, which has only been broken once in history by Frankie Fredericks with his 19.92 all the way back in 1996. So Elijah Hall was just a 10th of a second off the world indoor record. And just behind him, Texas Tech's Divine Oduduru with 20.21 seconds for second place was the fastest non-winning time in world history at that point. And even just behind them, USC's Rai Benjamin ran 20.34 seconds for the fastest third place time in history. So this entire race was extremely deep. But speaking of world records, the men's 400-meter dash saw Michael Norman of USC throw down the greatest indoor performance ever with his 44.52 seconds. NCAA record, American record, and most importantly, world indoor record. That took down the 13-year-old record set by Florida's Karan Clement from all the way back in 2005, one of the most legendary marks in all of track and field. But just behind Norman was Auburn's Akeem Bloomfield, who ran 44.86 seconds, making him number 6 all-time in world history and was actually the fastest second place time in 400-meter history as well. But moving over to the women's side, it was just as deep. First, Kendall Ellis of USC ran 50.34 seconds, not only breaking the 4-year-old NCAA record set by Phyllis Francis back in 2014, but it also broke the American record in the event. Then following that, all eyes were on Kentucky's Sydney McLaughlin as she got so close to the win, running 50.36 seconds for the second fastest time in NCAA and American history. But that also gave her the world U20 record, taking down the mark set by Sonia Richards all the way back in 2004. And that's not it for the records. Looking at the men's 4x400 meter relay, the USC team won the title in an NCAA record and another world record with a time of 3 minutes 77 seconds, the first team in history to break 3:01 indoors. that not only took down the record of 301.77 set by Poland at the World Indoor Championships just a week prior, but on top of that, Poland's world record mark was also surpassed by Texas A&M and Florida, who finished second and third respectively at NCAAs, making this clearly the greatest 4x400 meter race in indoor history. Now, I do have to caveat that because USC didn't have 4 athletes from the same nation competing on their team, it technically didn't count as a world record. Bry Benjamin at the time, he was still considered representing Antigua and not the United States, but I think most of us can probably agree it's pretty much irrelevant and just a semantics rule. 4 guys ran the fastest time in history, so to me, it's a world record. But now, dropping down to the 60-meter hurdles, Grant Holloway of Florida, who had already broken the NCAA record earlier in 2018, went on to run 6.47 seconds for the win in what was the 3rd fastest NCAA performance ever at that point. The women's hurdles weren't as deep, but we did see Tara Davis of Georgia set a world junior record of 7.98 seconds in the prelims. And though she didn't improve in the final, that was an amazing performance regardless and really continued to set the tone of the 2018 championships. Now, into the field, Kate Hall of Georgia took the women's long jump title with 6.73 meters, moving her up to number 10 in NCAA history. Now, the men's triple jump wasn't all-time quality, with O'Brien Wassam only jumping 16.82 meters for the win. But for the women, Katora Orji of Georgia took the title in 14.27 meters, the 8th best triple jump in NCAA history. And now, Katora Orji had already broken the NCAA record earlier that year, and she also had the top 7 marks in history. So this win was simply adding to her dominance in the NCAA. The women's pole vault brought us a match between Lexi Jacobus of Arkansas, winning in 4.66 meters, making her the 3rd best performer in NCAA history, while her teammate Victoria Hogger jumped 4.61 meters, moving her up to number 5 all-time indoors. But that's the overall case for the 2018 NCAA Championships. Across the sprints, jumps, and hurdles, the meet saw 6 NCAA records, 3 world records, and a plethora of top 10 marks both in the NCAA and world history. Now, one thing I did want to note is at this meet, because the doping controls weren't aligned across NCAA, USATF, and then World Athletics, some of the marks, like Michael Norman's world record, weren't certified officially as world records. Again, the doping control protocols are slightly different for it to get ratified as a world record versus an American record and an NCAA record. So I'll leave a link in the description where you can read about kind of the confusion around this meet, but just wanted to make sure I can note that. But what do you think? Would you say that 2018 was the best indoor championships ever? Or maybe there was another year that matches up or surpasses it in terms of quality across the sprints, jumps, and hurdles? Check the link in the description for a list of all the NCAA championships results throughout history so you can see how things stack up. But let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Be back again next time. Thanks for watching.